Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we got a pair of Ostrich Leg Lucchese 1883s. Come join us and check out what we're doing with them today. So in this video we have one of my favorite Luccese models. It's the 1883s. I like this model. I don't know how some of you feel. Some of you like the Luccese Classics a little bit more, or maybe another model, but I like the 1883s and the Luccese 2000s. My top two picks from the Luccese line. So today's video we're going to be recrafting these with some JR leather John Redenbach soles. And we're going to do some, let me grab the other boot here, doing some repairs here. There's a little bit of damage right there in that area. And adding some toe plates as well. But if anybody's familiar with Luccese in general, and if you love them, or if you're a fan of Western boots, check out one of the groups we started on Facebook, Luccese Enthusiast. And there's another one, Exotic Leather Enthusiast. Definitely some interesting and cool stuff on there. There's a few other great Western boot groups as well. And the other boot is Cowboy Boot Collector group. That one's a little bit of a larger group. The ones that I helped start were newer, in other words, so we're not quite up there as far as members, but still a lot of great stuff. Even have a few people who are staff members and work with Luccese directly, and they post some great informative things, and you can always ask questions or show off whatever you have too. Like I said, this is one of my favorite models, but I need to get me a pair. I don't have a pair. That's sad. And especially this color of the ostrich leg. This here is ostrich leg, so definitely a nice one here. Obviously you can tell that there's some color fading and everything, and that's normal in this particular color. That wine color, if you want to call it burgundy or cordovan color, whatever you want to call it, you know, cherry red. This is technically supposed to be cherry red, is what they're supposed to be called, but that's one of my all-time favorite colors. And the ostrich leg in the 1883s, beautiful boots, that's for sure. But as I mentioned, today we're going to be doing a little bit of work on them and recrafting them. So go ahead and start by pulling off the top lift heels. Now, if you're somebody who likes Western boots and you like a really tall heel, this one doesn't have a very tall heel. And if you like a very short one, this one's not too much on the shorter side either. It's kind of that in-between perfect height. As far as the construction of them, typically on these, they have a, 300 degree, right? 300 degree welt, I believe that's what it's called, meaning that the boots are stitched all the way underneath the heel base, so you don't have any kind of nailing or anything done here. They're stitched all the way around underneath this heel base, but they don't get stitched back right here. If they did, they'd be 360 degree, and typically on Western boots you don't really want a 360 degree welt. It just ends up being very chunky on that back heel, and there are other problems that you encounter as well, such as damage that may occur, because everyone with Western boots, we use boot jacks, we use you know, our other boot to take off another one and stuff, so you can cause some serious damage sometimes if it was a 360 degree welt Western boot. It can be done. That would be an interesting conversion job, actually. I'm almost tempted to try it. I know, I'm a little nuts, especially people who are familiar with the boot industry. They're like, what, are you crazy? A little bit. I'm actually did a pair of Red Wing boots where the gentleman wanted that kind of conversion, and he wanted the storm welt added to it, and he just shipped out another pair that arrived this week at the time of the recording and everything, where I'm converting it from a 300 degree welt to a full 360. and that's what I'm working on here in a little bit. All right, sorry about the interruptions. I keep having either someone come in or something. But so we've got the heel block off. I wrote on there right foot 1883. That's the only pair of 1883s I'm working on at the moment, so that's plenty enough. Right now I've got a few other ones lined up on the shelf, but I'm not working on those quite yet. So we're going to clip the nails. These nails here, they hold the heel base on from the inside of the boot. And I just got to clip them so I don't end up hurting myself. And then we'll end up taking them out from the inside like they came in to the boot as well, the same direction, just once we have the sole off. But there it is. At this point I'm going to go ahead and add my thinning agent, deactivate some of that glue around the welt. Sorry, I have to kind of face it away and you might not be seeing it, but okay. Alright, I'll be able to set them aside to let the thinner do what it needs to. Now, these boots here did have just a regular top lift heel, and that's what these have, is just this piece here. If I can take it off. So if you're ever having heels replaced, I'm just going to show you real quick. Typically it's usually just this top layer of rubber. This one in particular is a rubber top lift. There are also what are called washer heels or western heels. They're significantly thicker, so let me actually go grab one so I can show you. Sorry, I had to grab it, but yeah, this is a western or a washer heel, top lift heel. You can see that it's significantly thicker. It's got the holes in here with metal washers on the inside of it, so we can run nails in. A lot of western boots have this, but nowadays there are more and more boots that are having just these regular top lift heels. Cost wise, typically these ones are obviously a little bit cheaper to replace than these, but these ones do last a little bit longer, so there's pluses and minuses to it. The other thing is, obviously, because of the thickness of this one, we can't just take off this top lift heel and then slap on these on. It's going to change the height and the angle of the heel. So we have to make sure that if you ever do request that we put on a Western type heel like this one here is from Goodyear, like the tire company, Goodyear company, we have to end up readjusting this heel block. But we are replacing this entire heel block completely with... or no, we're not replacing this one. There's another pair that I'm replacing the heel block on, and I'm confused here. But, sorry, didn't mean to confuse you guys and myself. But the heel blocks, we would end up having to adjust. So at this point, we would actually be trying to save it anyways and make sure that we reconstruct it the same way. Now, by request, obviously if you request it, we can definitely change out the heels to these ones or something else too. If you want you know, something a little bit heftier, heavier grip, we can do that as well, and then we can go vice versa the other direction as well. Or if you want all leather, you know, no rubber top lift heel like this, that could be done. I've had requests for that because some people dance in their boots and they need to be able to slide a specific way. So it's just by request. Now obviously some options might be a little bit more, some might be a little bit less, and you know, materials range in different pricing, and not only material cost, it's also labor cost. Some materials take a little bit more to trim out or sand or to process, in other words, or the particular adhesive that may be used takes extra steps. So if you're ever wondering, you know, if you grab this heel versus this heel here, why is there such a price difference? Well, because the adhesion process is a little bit different, possibly sometimes, depends on the heel block too, and then you got to run the nails in, sanding it out's different and everything. So obviously there are price variants on all of it. It's not one price fits all across the board. And on top of that, we also have to take a look at your heel blocks too, like this one here. As you can tell, it's splitting. We're going to be re-gluing all that anyways, but this one's worn out a little bit into that little rubber pad, so I'm going to have to sand that out and repair that, make sure it's leveled out, and that could add a little bit to the cost sometimes. Not always, but sometimes it can. So just wanted to point all that out to everyone. Almost threw that one away. Just in case, I'm going to keep that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish out what I need to with this other one and start getting ready to cut off the sole. So just going to be regular cutting. So do you guys want to see that? Let me show you guys. I'll just not talk through the video, at least this part. Hopefully I don't talk. I have a bad habit of talking too much, as you can tell. So if you don't like my talking, let me know. Maybe I'll try to make a couple of videos of me doing the repair work without any talking. Give you some of that cobbler ASMR stuff. Let me know. I've been having some people telling me, some family members and stuff, telling me I should try that, but I haven't had really any requests from the general public and all you fans and people who watch my videos. I haven't had any requests. Well, I've had a few mentions, but I haven't had actual requests. So if you are wanting to see me do a full video where I do not talk, if you find me annoying and you just want to watch the process, comment down below. Let me know. What do you guys think? Yes? No? Maybe so? Alright. I'm almost done with this one. And let's get ready to cut off that sole. I'm not going to talk. Okay, so we've got these boots apart. What do you guys think of that? Is that a little bit of ASMR for you? Do you guys like it? Don't like it? You know, just a little bit. But I've taken out the little heel pad here. Looks like it's still intact. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to clean it up in a little bit. Just wanted to show you guys. We got the shank here and the leather cover. That's stuck on a nail. Oh, come on. So the shank is good. And then this leather cover here like that, this goes over the shank, and that's what gives you kind of that nice little curvature right there. There you see there, it gives it that. Sorry, my battery died there, but yeah, so this leather piece here gives it that nice bow look in the arch area. Can't remember what they call it exactly, but it's bows it out basically. Is that proper term? Anybody know what it is? That's one thing I don't like about Luccese 1883s. They use this foam stuff. It's not cork. But when you ask me that and say, is there cork in the 1883s? I don't remember off the top of my head until I finally start working on them. I don't know why. I have bad memory. I should probably start taking notes about the different construction of different boots and shoes, and say that way I can say, yeah, those particular model usually have the cork filler. Some of them use foam or felt or nothing. I should probably start taking notes. I need a notepad, maybe alphabetical, put it that way and stuff. But anyways, continuing on. So we got everything out of there. Got this crepe material. It's an orthopedic type crepe since we got that heel pad out. Now we can remove the nails. Now these gripper nails, those are the ones that we cut earlier. Gonna end up removing those. Some cobblers clip them, sand them, leave them in there. Some of them actually grab them with pliers and rip them through this top area. But there's a small handful of cobblers that do it the right way, because they know what's up and they're trying to make these boots last as long as possible. And that's my goal. Oh, there's one little nail that's sticking out that way. Get that out of here real quick. Wait, wrong tool. There we go. That way we're not ripping the heads out or anything and making the holes larger and all that. There we go. just like that. By the way, sorry, I forgot to turn on my little light here. Still trying to figure out my lighting situation here. Some of you said it was a little dark here at my workbench. Yeah, it is. I mean, it wasn't dark for me working here, but I guess for the video recording it was. So I have to figure out what's the best setup for lighting for me here, and that's still being an experiment. Okay, now at this point I'm pretty much done taking them apart. My next step would be to clean them up, because when the sole is off, that way I have a little better access. I am going to test out that little ASMR thing as well again with you guys. Let me know what you think. But we're gonna have to clean these up. I'm gonna be using my Desalter vinegar easy cleaner mixture here to clean them up and let them dry. And then afterwards we're going to start conditioning these. We want to make sure these are nice and supple to work on, because we still have to get in here and do a little bit of patchwork right there. And I got to take apart that section of welt and then have to restitch it. It looks like the gemming right here is starting to come unglued, so that'll have to be glued up, but that's all going to happen after the cleaning is done. So set this one aside right there and continue on. So we'll see you back here in just a little. I'm back. I forgot. Do you guys want to see another bit of ASMR? Okay, let's calm down and be quiet. So let's do it one more time. So how's that for my first time ASMR? Sorry if I woke you up there. But anyways, right now we're gonna let those sit and dry. We spray them down with our solution here. It's going to help deactivate salts, other minerals, any kind of potential water damage will help at least make it a little bit better. I did the same thing on these little heel pad inserts because we're not replacing these. We're trying to save the original because they say 1883s by, or 1883 by Luccese, and they still have the cushion pad, which is in perfect shape actually. Surprisingly, sometimes that pad gives out and we have to replace it as well. But we desalted those. I've got the shank and leather piece here. I'm going to set those aside because we're not going to be putting them in quite yet. I left this one on here. I wrote left and right, and just remembered you can't really write on metal that easily. I don't have a pencil that'll indicate it too well. Keep getting interrupted here, but don't even remember where I left off on again. Anyways, let's see where I can start at. So at this point, I just got to let these dry. It's already the end of the day, so I might as well let them dry overnight before I really do anything else to them. But in the meantime, I could actually start splitting apart the welt a little bit in this area. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the best way to do it because Luccese does make it a little bit tight around the welt area here with a lot of materials, but also at the same time, I'm looking over it with this here, the gemming, that's what it's called, the gemming, which is this part, the felt material that gets glued down and then the Goodyear welt gets stitched to it. It's coming undone, so it might be a better thing for me to do is just leave it to dry overnight, come back in the morning and then glue it together, and then that way I have a little bit easier option to be able to pull on that welt to get in there and undo the stitching and everything. And it's perfectly fine that we're just undoing the section. Sometimes, majority of the time, we'll actually replace the entire welt as well, but the welt on these are still in fairly good shape. Yeah, it's in great shape still, but I'll get that taken care of with the patchwork, and yeah, just kind of continue on. I think, yeah, there were two spots, one on the inside here and yeah, one on the opposite inside, so both insides of the boot, they need some patchwork done on it. But I'll set them aside and let them dry. Got the insoles here, or insoles, the soles traced out. Just trace it out to try to center that JR sole and cut out so that we can get it centered as much as possible. Wrote 1883 on there because I got another couple of pairs of JR soles that I'm working on. That way that 1883 will let me know which boots they go to. So I'll just set them aside, let them dry overnight. I'll be back in tomorrow to continue on with them. So we'll see you back. Alright, so as you saw, that I ended up running the machine to pull out stitches. I don't know if I'm going to edit that in or out quite yet, but I did end up pulling the stitches out of here. But after I did that, I kind of decided, why did I do that? Just because I need to take off the welt anyways, partially to fix up these edges here. This first pair I already did. As you can tell, I took out the welt. It's kind of come apart a little bit in these areas here and there. And so I'm gonna have to stitch on new welt. But this is the patching that I did so far. Right now it's drying and curing with the adhesive, and I still have to do a little bit of filler, and we're gonna put a new Goodyear style welt like that on there. got the old one right here, and so we're gonna end up having to replace that. But before I can do anything with the welt, I have to patch up these sides. So the first one I already did, just to be able to show everyone what it looks like. So as you can tell, the upper and the inner liner have come apart from the base where the gemming, I keep forgetting what it's called, the gemming is right here. And so that kind of helped a little bit, just because I'm able to get better access into sandwiching a piece of leather right here in between the upper material and the inner liner, which is this white piece here. So it's nicely sandwiched in right there. So now it's going to cure overnight, and I still got to do the same thing for this other one, take off all the welt and do the exact same thing on this side here. Now before I leave these to cure overnight, because today's been a little bit of a hectic day, I'm actually going to grab a filler, if I can remember where I had put in it. Let me go locate that so I can show you what it looks like. Okay, found it. So I've got this here. This is the quick sole, however you want to pronounce it. It comes out of Europe, so a lot of the instructions aren't even in English here anyways. Well, there's a little bit of English here and there, it looks like, but not too much. So this stuff is made by Renya, who makes one of the more high-end adhesives that we tend to use as well. This particular one is the black. They also make a beige color. Today we're not using the beige, we're using the black, because this cherry color here regardless still has certain black tints on it. So we're going to use that to kind of fill in that small itty-bitty little crack there, if you can possibly see it. But we're going to fill that in with a little bit of this. Now this particular cream here, it's not technically black, it's more of a gray, so it's going to actually take on some of that reddish tint when we're finally polishing these up and treating them. But it's a great bonding agent for us to be able to fill in this crack here, and mainly because they also add some rubberized material to it, so when it dries, it actually works like a proper filler. And when it dries, it doesn't actually harden or anything. It still has nice flexibility to it. It's not going to be a stiff point, because stiff points are bad in these areas, because stiff materials, they will crack. They're going to crack. So you want something that's going to dry nicely, but still has some flexibility to it. And obviously, it's not going to, you know, be a full 100%. In other words, as far as like filling it in. Sorry about that interruption there, but I already forgot where I was at. Anyways, we're going to add a little bit more, and we do have to allow this to dry and cure for a 24-hour period. And once it's all dry and set, we can trim off this extra there. But sometimes I like to actually leave it. I'll just kind of see, once this is all dry, how much room I have to play with, in other words. And by play, I mean when I'm stitching on the new welt around the area here, so that I have plenty of room to be able to stitch and run the needle through and everything. So I'm gonna leave this large piece hanging here. I just wanted to leave it a little bit longer for everyone to see, and I still have to do the same thing to this other boot here. But once we're ready to start stitching the welt, I'll be back over here. I did also pull out all the old stitches in here, for anyone that's wondering. Some of you cobblers may be familiar with it, but for anyone that isn't, down on the inside here, you might be able to see there are some stitches here that we definitely always have to end up pulling, so that they don't get in the way of the new stitches that we do when we're putting on the welt. So this one's ready to go to just sit and dry, and still got to do this one, and we'll see you back here in 24 hours. All right, everyone, so we're back here again, and kind of skipped over the whole stitching process, but I just want to show you real quick. So we've got that filler there where the crack was, cut out that extra piece of leather that was sticking out, and now we've got the welt that we're stitching together. As you can tell, I did the one boot here. What I'm gonna have to do with that filler, obviously I'm gonna have to get in there and sand it out carefully. I like to sand it out a little bit later on by hand, but before I stitch it, so that I don't accidentally nick the welt or the stitch welts basically during the sanding process, and just to kind of even it out. Again, as you can tell, it's a little bit gray tint compared to the rest of the boot. During the conditioning and cleaning process and polishing, we'll be restoring that color significantly, so that's gonna look a lot better. But for now, we're just stitching on the welt. All of this is done by hand with a wax thread. Use our hook needle like that there and just aim for all the original holes, if you see some of them here. And that's one of the benefits of stitching welt back on by hand. You're able to aim for the original holes, where if you send this back to a factory, any brand of boots or shoes that provide factory refurbishment programs, when they replace the welt, they run it through a machine and they're not able to aim for the original holes, creating more perforation and shortening the life expectancy of that leather upper. So one of the great benefits from us cobblers, we do it by hand. It's not practical for a cobbler shop to own a welting machine like that, or a Goodyear welt. And in a way, it also gives a bit of an upgrade. This converts it from a Goodyear welt to technically a hand welting option, which makes the welt last a lot longer, because we tighten each individual stitch by hand. So we are able to regulate where we need the tension to be a little bit tighter, a little bit looser, and gives it more of that upgraded feel. Now, as I had mentioned before, that initially I was going to try to save the old welt, but decided, nah, might as well do it right and give this gentleman a bit more of an upgrade with the new welt. So instead of everybody having to sit around and watch me stitch this all on by hand, I'm going to go ahead and finish these out. Lay the shanks and leather inserts back in, fill it all in with cork, get it all leveled out nicely, and when it's time to stick the sole back on, I'll see you back then. Oh, and before I continue on, I don't remember if I showed me cutting out the sole to get that JR logo as center as possible. Got our little Cobblers Plus logo stamped in there as well. Keep forgetting to put that stamp in, but I'll try to remember doing it a little more often and get back on track to using that. I need to get a few more stamps in different sizes to be able to accommodate that, but in the near future might have another option, so stay tuned for that. If my other option comes through just fine, I'm gonna have some cool customizations being done to the bottoms of soles, more than we already have been, so stay tuned. Hopefully we have that up and running soon, and for now, I'm going to continue on off camera with the things I just mentioned, and we'll see you back here in just a minute. Alright everyone, so I just pulled this out of the oven so it's nice and pliable. Just bend it a little bit, make it bend inward just a little more than the direction that it's going. And then we've got the cork refilled. I did put a little bit here in the back area to give some insulation. I do have to try to be quick about it because these soles are nice and hot. And then voila, got it stuck together. I'm going to stick it on the press, let it sit for a little while, and press everything out. Once it's done curing, we're going to start cutting everything off and trimming and continue on. So we'll see you back here in just a little bit. Alright everyone, so we're back here over at the workbench. We've allowed everything to cure and stuff. I actually sanded all this up and trimmed it up a little roughly. Obviously it's a little rough, but because again we put a new welt on and we still have to adjust that depth of the welt, so we ended up changing that up a bit. Now we're going on to fixing up at this area where we filled it in. We allowed it to cure nicely. As you can tell, it's got a little bit of an off color and everything. It's got this weird cracking and stuff like that. But anyways, we're going to take our 120 grit sandpaper chunk here and just basically start sanding it ever so slightly. Yep, I'm wearing my fedora. Also, if you guys haven't checked out my newer daily posts, check those out. They're short videos. They're not like, if Janelle stops making noise over there. Sorry. They're not quite like these videos here. They're a little bit on the shorter side, obviously, and we just post those every day. It's just information about our industry, about different products, you know, maybe some kind of news. Once a week, we'll, at the end of the week, usually on Fridays, we'll do like a quick shop update. We'll just kind of walk through the shop, show around what we've got interesting going on, any like new projects, give an update of what we have going on as well. But obviously, you know, one of the updates is that we started doing the daily updates. But anyways, just thought I'd point that out. So definitely check those out if you're somebody that doesn't like these long videos that we've been doing and stuff, and you skip through them. I know there are a few of you out there. YouTube does show me the statistics of average watched videos and stuff. Okay. Now, obviously, during the sanding process, we're going to be removing a little bit of the color, and this is why we do it by hand. We don't do it with a machine, just because we don't want to take off too much of the leather itself. Again, we're just trying to kind of even out this filler that we had to use on there ever so slightly, and because it's a little more on the rubber side, it kind of wants to roll. I still don't have my air compressor hooked up here, otherwise I just spritz it real quick. Any of you, I have had a few people mention to me, why don't you just use canned air like they use for computers? Well, can. Yeah, get it? Yeah, I know I'm a loser. But anyways, you can use it technically, but the problem is that it is an aerosol version, so there is still some chemicals in there, so they're not harmful towards electronics because of the way it evaporates quickly and everything. But on leather, it's a different story. Those chemicals can end up being extremely damaging, either structurally or even visibly too. So just want to point that out. So just blow on it a little bit, and I want to show you guys real quick. See, obviously, as you can tell, it's a little more evened out, but looks a little rough now. And I mean, there's not enough damage for it to really need too much else going on as far as like coloring. A lot of that can be restored by cream, but I already got my Saphir color dye. It's the base red number 11. I have to write it on the cap here just because these little ones here where they write it somewhere, I could never find it for some reason. See, can't find it. Oh, it's on the lid. Number 11 right there. But number 11 doesn't always say everything. I can't memorize every number of color that they have and stuff. So let me go ahead and get this opened up. I'm going to try to do it as carefully as I can so it doesn't explode on me, because I can't remember if these things had a little cover on them or not underneath that cap. So let me mess with that for a second off camera, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I opened up with no problems. I thought there was a seal at the top here underneath the cap, but there isn't, it turns out. So anybody that's ever buying these, I'm going to try to maybe start stocking these. Currently, I just carry a few Phoebings, but I really want to start stocking these. So again, check out our daily videos, and when we get new product in, I'll try to make, again, updates once a week about what's going on, what's new, and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that, or also check us out on Instagram or Facebook so that you know what's going on. Now, obviously, this isn't gonna do too much, but it's just to help restore the base here and touch up the color nicely on that new filler that we put on there. Give it some of that reddish tint there. Okay. Let's see, try to give you guys a little bit more of a close-up on this one here. Now, as you can tell, there's all the scuffing and stuff, just like that. Now it's going to even out significantly once we start polishing and doing the creams and waxes on these, but I wanted the base to be taken care of, especially again because it's a darker gray color that we have on the filler. Sorry, right in front there. I gotta be careful. I was about to grab that rag over there by those suedes. That's another video I'm working on. Obviously, as some of you can tell, I do have to work on multiple video recordings at a time. Us cobblers, we don't just sit here and do one pair of shoes all day long, every day. It's just not functional that way, because while the glues might be drying or something else is drying, we're doing another pair. And in this case over here, I got two other ones going. I thought these are a must video as well, just like these ones here. So got a couple of videos being recorded, so stay tuned for those ones. I've got another pair over here that I'm working on behind the camera, but it'll be a video posted. I don't know if this one's going to come up first or if that one will, but these ones are definitely going to be a little bit later posted. Video editing also does take time. Please bear that in mind. I'm not a videographer. I'm not a professional. I'm learning. I'm getting the hang of it. Having fun, as you can tell if you watched the daily posts that I have. Finally started adding some music in and everything, and having some fun with it. So I hope everyone's been enjoying those daily posts. It's a little more fun. These ones are a little more on the boring side. I talk way too much. Where the daily posts I sound like, I don't know, like a jackhammer, just talking too fast. So yeah. But anyways, just bear that in mind. Again, even like with the camera quality and stuff like that, or the sound quality, I'm working on it. I'm not a professional. I'm a cobbler by trade, okay? I'm having fun with these videos. I've been enjoying them. I hope you have as well. So if you're not liking my quality of sound or videos, again, please understand that fact. If you're here to watch the work I do, great, I appreciate it. If you love the work quality that we do here at our shop and you want to watch how it's done, that's the best at the moment that I can offer for you. But if you are wanting me to kind of do more as far as videos go, like higher quality resolution or something, or a particular frame size or type or sound as well, recommendations are great, but again, I do have some limitations. Like right now, I can't exactly afford to buy a $1,500 camera, like a new one, to do all this video recording and get the top 4K quality and the next best thing when it comes to sound. I've got other expenses. You guys have no idea how expensive these JR Souls are when it adds up. When you got to order a dozen, 2, 3, 4 dozen, whatever it may be, it adds up. So I have priorities, unfortunately. So stay tuned. Just watch. If you haven't been enjoying it because of all that quality stuff and that I'm not a videographer, just check in every couple of months or so. Maybe something will change, just kind of something new, maybe a new camera. Maybe I find out a new trick about editing videos. But in the meantime, any comments that you guys give or recommendations, I appreciate it. But again, I have some limitations. I have 3 kids on top of that. We have a newborn right now, and my hands are a little tied. So trying to dig into this a little bit more doesn't work out as well as I'd hoped for. Anyways, I'm gonna continue on with these, let them dry for a minute or two. Well, good couple of minutes, in other words. Let them dry, and then I'm gonna double check the welt, because obviously in some areas the welt got just a little bit scuffed up. So I'm gonna grab some varnish ink and just touch up those areas there. I won't really bother you with that on camera, but it's just some varnish ink that we use for the edging. I'm gonna use that on the top of the welt before we stitch it, because once we stitch it, I don't want to mess with it too much. Even though we're using a black thread on the top, it wouldn't make a difference, but I'd rather do that before the actual stitching is done. As far as the bottom stain, we're not going to mess with that until after the stitching, because this is not an open channel stitch that we're doing on them. We're going to do a closed channel. Closed channel means that our blade on our machine just cuts through it right away and creates a channel, making it a much narrower channel area, so you wouldn't even be able to really see those stitches all that much. So it makes no difference whether we end up whether we do the finish on it first and then stitch it, or if we stitch it and then do the finish. Usually open channel stitching is where I like to do the finish first on the bottom and then stitch it after. Closed channel, like what we're about to do, either way really works, as long as all the stitches are sitting inside the channel. If they don't get into the channel, unfortunately that sanding process kind of damages the stitch. So anyways, let's set these aside, let them dry, and we'll see you back here in just a few. Alright everyone, so it took me a little while, but turns out ran out of the Lulu plates for these. Finally got them in, was able to mark that up and cut it out. We cut these out by hand, not quite sand them. But now at this point we're ready to go ahead and stitch it all up and get going. Spray it down with some water. Now most of the time we'll do a bottom finish on these before we stitch it if we're trying to do certain colored threads or something, but this one's going to have a closed channel stitch, meaning that we're just using the blade that's on here to cut into the material instead of pre-channeling it. And we typically do that on almost all Western boots, just because pre-channeling a Western boot doesn't always work out. I don't know, it just doesn't. There's something something iffy always going on about it. If it's not one thing, it's another. But when we have a closed channel stitch, it actually protects those stitches a little bit longer, I've noticed. But it doesn't show off the nice colored stitching if you have a particular different color. So at this point, we could pretty much pick any color we want, but I decided to stick to red. And after that, we'll end up being able to do the bottom finish and continue on. So make sure I got good depth on here and everything. Oh, almost forgot I got to mark where the welt ends. That always helps visually when we're stitching to get it back to the original spot. Okay, all right, so looking pretty good there. Maybe if I can show it. Got it. Sorry, I should have clipped the stitches, but it's sitting inside that channel nicely. Now I'll go ahead and clip everything off and start running the gripper nails in and move on. Okay everyone, so we hammered down right where the stitching was here, so it kind of helps close off that channel nicely. Now I'll go ahead and go to our gripper nails here and just run on the back of the heel. Now, for those of you who don't know, or if I didn't mention this before, this boot has a 3/4 length welt, meaning that it gets stitched down to like right about here typically, and then right in this area at the back of the heel where the heel rend is, it gets nailed down with these gripper nails. And if you're ever wondering, you know, what type of welt you have on your Western boots, is it a half welt, is it a 3/4 welt? 3/4 welt usually stops right about here, and then right underneath this arch area you'll have more nails, and some of you may have seen my previous videos of me running nails in that area, and those nails aren't exactly there for just decoration, they're there for a purpose. But on these ones, if I add any nails, they would be strictly for decoration. They would add a little reinforcement, but it's unnecessary reinforcement that can cause problems. I've actually had a few gentlemen and ladies even request that I add nails right here. I advise against it. I mean, just because on boots that are 3/4 length welt like that, there's a different system set up. You saw underneath the way the shank is inside there and everything, so that may end up kind of getting in the way of the nails, and so as you're wearing it, that nail may start popping back out very easily, and it'll look horrible. It won't be anything damaging structurally. Typically it wouldn't be, but there could be a case where that shank could end up getting snapped during that process too, but that's a very, very slim chance that it can ever occur. So just wanted to point that out. Now if they're really tiny nails and it's just like a decorative like medallion type of setup, that's fine. But if you're actually wanting us to add, you know, nails all across here like we are now with these gripper nails, or not gripper, clinch nails, I'm sorry, could definitely be a few problems here and there on a build like this. Alright, so I had to take the toe tips back out. I forgot about the bottom stain basically, but give it a little bit of red because these are cherry red uppers, so we did cherry red with some black on it. There. Now the black does doesn't really show through as black. I mean, I can do that definitely, but having that kind of almost like a dark red faded into a little bit brighter red definitely looks a little bit nicer. I've got a pair up front that are full quail ostrich that I ended up making into a display. Those were Luccese 2000s that I did basically the same thing on. The only thing different with these ones is that we're actually going to be doing a standard black heel instead of a red one that stands out. The rubber top lift. I'm gonna grab one here, sorry. So this is the red one like that there that I put on the other ones, and you know, I'm just doing the same thing but with a black heel basically. Because the cherry red, I mean, it looks real good. But trying to do a different color, basically, that doesn't blend or match in any form or way, just does not go very well. Now, since we've got everything taken care of as far as the back end of the heel there, next thing is I need to glue up the heel bases. I've got them here sitting and drying because all the different layers here, they all came undone, so I had to put a bunch of glue all in there, pull them apart and stuff, and you know, basically just press them all together and everything. And now I just gotta put some glue there, put them together, run the nails back in from the inside of the boot, and yeah, they're getting closer to being ready done. For today, it's already the end of the day, so I'm gonna put on the first coat, let that just start curing overnight, so that tomorrow morning I could go ahead and put on the second coat. Make sure how everything's sitting good. All right, okay, so I'll go ahead and get that taken care of, and I'll see you back in just a little bit. All right, everyone, so we're back here again. We've got everything nailed in on the inside. The heel base is on. For any of you cobblers, I know there's a few of you watching as well. Anyone that ever notices that there are shoes and boots and all sorts of type of footwear that has the heel block, and it has that little thin, about 1/8 of an inch black chunk right there. It's like a composite material. Don't remove it, please. That's actually there intentionally because the heel block on these and a number of other shoe brands and boot brands, that when they use a composite material, they put that black piece on there intentionally so that, one, it acts as a buffer, so it absorbs a little bit more shock, because composite doesn't do it as well as leather does, or fiberboard, I'm sorry, doesn't do it as well. And the other thing is, fiberboard has a tendency to peel, so if you plan on having to re-heel these time and time again, you know, that fiberboard's going to peel layer after layer after layer, and then eventually the whole height of the heel block ends up wonky and messed up. I guarantee certain areas that are going to have more material pulled off every single time. So for all the cobblers out there doing the work on boots and shoes, especially if you're new to the industry, do whatever you can to try to salvage that little black pad. If we accidentally pull it off along with the top lift heel and there's no way of salvaging it, we'll actually replace it with a midsole type material before actually putting the top lift on. We don't just stick on a thicker rubber heel block on there, or top lift on there, just because it's easier. We're gonna do it right, and I highly recommend doing the same thing, because as a cobbler, your expectation is to not just fix up those shoes and get them out the door and get paid. Your expectation should be to redo the heel right, and the person who owns them is going to wear out the heel again. They're going to come back, get them re-heeled again, and then finally when they're back at the next, you know, second, third, fourth time, whatever it may be, they're back in to have everything done, the full soles and all that. So that should be my hammer real quick. That should be kind of the expectation. Don't just try to get it fixed up and get paid and out the door type of thing. Do a little bit extra if you need to. Get that little 1/8 of an inch. It's not going to cost anything extra out of the pocket, but I'm definitely wanting to point that out to all the cobblers out there that are doing work for years or just started. Do that kind of expectation with any boot or shoe coming into your shop. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to pull that off on everything, but do it as much as you can. Anyways, back to talking about the boot here. So we've got everything on there. Got the top lift on. It's kind of warm. I took it out of the oven. So at this point, I'm going to go stick it on the press, let it sit for a little bit, cure, and we'll get ready to start sanding everything out around the edges. We've got the bottom basically finished out, so the only part we have left is the edges and taking care of the uppers on them. Oh, and almost forgot the heel pads right there. I like to sometimes replace these, but these are in such great shape, plus they say 1883 by Luccese, and unfortunately I can't recreate that on them, so we're going to save the original ones. They're still in good shape. I've sprayed them down with a desalting agent to help remove any minerals out of there, and kind of extend that life expectancy. But for the time being, I'm going to set them aside and stick these on the press, and we'll see you back here in just Alright everyone, so we're back here again. So we've got everything kind of waxed up nicely around the edges, buffed up the bottom a little bit more. I'm probably going to do that a few more times. I did put the insert back in. Don't know if you can see that, but it's the original on that one. So at this point I basically have to go through and kind of clean it up. I'm going to clip off any little loose threads and melt them, so if you ever have any kind of issues like that with any threads sticking out, this one just has a few little spots here and there, nothing too major, but I like to go through and double check. So I'll clip it and take a lighter to it because it is a nylon thread, and nylon does melt. If it's a cotton thread, typically you find that on more of a heavier type of work boot. You know, firefighters tend to use that because there are certain, you know, benefits to having cotton on performance shoes and boots for that kind of work. But for your typical nice dress boots and shoes, casual wear, it's typically nylon, just because nylon will hold up a lot better for day-to-day type use, and so it's easy to maintain as well. I've got these boot trees in here because I keep wanting to kind of flop over just a little bit, but I want to try to keep the shape a little bit more rounded so that when I go through and clean and condition them, I got no issues with them flopping over. So I'm going to be using a cleaner, which I forgot to grab. But since this is an exotic, I'm going to go through with a little bit of Lincoln Easy Cleaner. You could also use Angelus. A couple of spots I might have to go through with some turpentine on it and just kind of clean it up. I don't like using too much solvents on exotics, but there may be a few spots I might need a touch up beforehand, and if I do, I'll go ahead and use the solvent. After that, I'm going to condition the whole entire boot with the Saphir Medaldio Renovator. Obviously, because it's got mink oil and lanolin in it, which is beneficial for that exotic leather, that lanolin especially. And once that's all taken care of, try to restore a little bit more of that red color with the number 12 Hermes red, or Hermes some say it, as well with the Pomadir. And finally, just a little bit of a coat of the number 9 mahogany color, because it still has a little bit of a brownish tone to it anyways, and mahogany's got brownish reddish tints to it anyways. And then I like to go through one last time around the edges with some more Pate Deluxe as well. Sorry I get interrupted, but I'm gonna go ahead and finish out the edging with another Pate Deluxe, the black color, just because it's gonna help kind of smooth everything out a little bit more. The varnish wheel, like you saw me using, and the buffing, it does a great job, but just that small amount of the softer waxes from the Pate Deluxe compared to that Yankee wax is what it's called, it just evens it out a little bit more. If you're ever wanting to add a little more shine to your edges, just literally take it with your finger. The fingerprints that you have on your hands are plenty enough. You just kind of scoop it up and just rub it all around into the edges, and you'll be good to go. So let me go ahead and get that taken care of. I'm not going to do that too much on camera, because otherwise I talk too much and the video gets longer by nearly half an hour just with that alone. So I showed what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get that taken care of. If I come across any additional issues, I'll be sure to mention that, but I'll see you back here in just a few minutes once I've got that taken care of. For you guys, it'll be a couple of seconds, but we'll see you in a minute. Alright everyone, so I'm back here again, but real quick, what do you guys think of this angle here? I just realized I had a tripod that I've been using for a while at the time of this recording, and never thought about trying to change up the angle. Let me know what you think of this angle. Does this view work out great for you? I know you can see a lot of stuff in the background. I got my laptop out there. I'm actually uploading one of my Soul Talk Sunday episodes. It's being posted this weekend at the time of this recording, but yeah, so you get to see what's going on in the background, how messy my workbench sometimes gets. Anyways, so I've gone ahead and taken care of just one of the boots at the moment, just to kind of compare. So this one was worked on, and this one has yet to be worked on. So, look a little bit better? I think so. For anyone that's wondering, yes, I did take care of the tops, the shaft area here. I only used the renovator and the cleaning on it. But as far as anything with color, I always just do the lower portion, so that obviously you wear pants with them, it can rub off after a period of time. And doing the shaft area isn't quite necessary to try to really restore too much of the color pigment unless you're re-dyeing it. So I've gone ahead and done that. I added some more wax here towards the bottom, and I did change from mahogany over to the burgundy number 8 instead of using the mahogany, because the Hermes red had a nice red tone to it, and I want to return some of the purple also also to the top, so give it back some of the purple. Obviously with the waxes though, there's a huge transparency in the pigment in here, so it's not really going to do too much, but it gives it that purple hue, just a hint, not too much. So this one's basically done. The only last thing I need to do is clean up that toe tip area right here, because obviously it gets waxes on there, and it's all good to go then. I still have to finish out the other boot, and then that one will be ready. But at this point, yeah, pretty much all done with them. Just some minor touch-ups here and there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. You can always go to our website, CobblersPlusCO, and all of our contact information is on there. So if you have any questions or pictures you want to email us, our phone number is on there, and so is our address if you're local here in Denver. Otherwise, if you enjoyed it, make sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell icon to be notified when we have a video posted. At the moment, we're trying to keep up with our daily post Monday through Friday, where we try to keep kind of like a shorter clip, which hasn't been working out that well, but we talk about different products, shoe accessories, brands, you know, just shop updates of what's going on at our shop and everything. Every now and then maybe some news and information about the industry, and then Saturdays are for recraft videos such as these ones here, and then Sundays we're doing our Soul Talk Sunday episodes. So definitely hit that notification bell icon if you want to be notified when we have videos posted, and you'll be notified and you can check it out if you want to see that particular video. If not, you can move on to the next day and see what we have for the following day. Anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.